Hello, Newsweek fans. This is Gary Loss, and I wanted to talk to you today about something very important. So earlier this evening, I was watching the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and it just struck me that it was very sad on every level because it's a waste of his life, and then there were two people's lives that he took, and he's in a lot of trouble, right? The evidence looks pretty bad against him, and I don't know which way this is going to go. But regardless of the ultimate verdict in this trial, it's a sad commentary upon what's happening here in the United States. And I got to thinking about it. He got involved in a riot, supposedly to protect things, although in my mind, it seemed as though he overstepped his bounds. Never should have been there. That's what police are for. And even if they can't do it, that's what insurance is there for. You stay at home. You don't get involved in things like that because you don't really know what's going on. It's almost impossible to tell innocent people from dangerous actors, especially when you're not really trained to do so, which apparently he doesn't look as though he is. But it got me to thinking about this thing on a deeper level and what's behind it all. And these are just my thoughts on this. I'm not going to necessarily cite any, statistical evidence. It's just my psychological delving into this has sort of led me to believe the following things. So first of all, I think these riots are a reflection of our inability to cope with the tension and conflict that go with change and loss. You know, uh, we just don't really understand how to process such deep emotions. And we're getting very bad at handling dark or challenging, painful things. Part of that is because we live in this, and I've written about this sort of dopamine rich society in which everything is about how can we sustain our pleasure and not deal with pain or tension or conflict, right? We tend to avoid those things, whether we use drugs or social media or some form of other addiction to ameliorate our stress that we feel in association with these things that make us feel tension or pain or discomfort. And I think in some ways riots are just bubbling over individually into the collective. They spill over and we lose control, as a whole. So I think that's a big thing going on here. We are not very good anymore as as individuals nor as a nation with dealing with gritty, ugly things. We tend to explode or we tend to hide from them, but we don't tend to work through them very well. And I'm not sure what the answer is. I just know it seems like we're struggling with that. Number two, it's a commentary on the massive power of social media. And again, it goes back to what I was just talking about. Social media gives you a dopamine hit, right? The likes, the commentary, the especially using phones, the colors, the sounds, everything in it is a increases our dopamine. Unfortunately, that dopamine later gets downregulated, it falls, and then in order to feel normal again, although the body's trying to work toward homeostasis, in order to feel normal again, we need another dopamine hit. So we go back to things like social media. Within that social media, though, unfortunately, there is a ton of information, and some people react to it on a completely emotional, seemingly irrational manner. And that drives them to get behind causes or to take actions such as Kyle Rittenhouse did, which at first blush might seem like the right thing to do. You're guarding something that's valuable, but in the end, you're actually just contributing to the chaos that you see around you. You're not enhancing anything. You're not bettering anything. And as I said before, properties that are burned down or attacked, I'm totally against that. And I think people who do that should be arrested. Sorry, I don't go for this mob mentality. And at the same time, taking a gun to a situation like that is likely going to lead to bad things, as it evidently did here. This young man was not prepared for the level of chaos that he saw there. He was not able to judge what was what, right? He doesn't have extensive training or background to be able to differentiate. And so social media for people like, I think, Kyle Rittenhouse, and more importantly, the attack on our Capitol on January 6th, social media played a tremendous role with that. It riled people up. It got them angry, and that dopamine hit that they get from agreement and the likes and encouragement just obviated any sense of rational thinking that might have led them to a different decision that said, hey, this is not a good idea to get into, right? This may seem emotionally or psychologically appealing at the moment, but when I think it through past my dopamine infused haze, I can see that this is going to end up bad, that there are better ways to resolve our angst than rioting in a capital or rioting in a city or bringing a gun and pretending to be some sort of bastion of peacekeeping when in reality you just contributed to the murder and the mayhem that happened. So the social media is another aspect. I mean, I think ultimately at the end of the day, this is really just about a fundamental lack of trust in combination with fear. We seem to be inoculated from rational thought and calmness. And instead, we are operating out of this very distrustful, fear based kind of mode. I think that's what Kyle Rittenhouse did. I think that's what the people in the January 6th riots were acting on. But we have to be better than that as a nation, right? As a people, if we want a better future on both sides, right? This is not a condemnation of just one side. It may seem like that, it's not, because all the riots were unnecessary, also understandable in some ways, but not the correct decision. The bottom line is that none of this kind of fear-based mentality is going to move us forward. It's kind of like the Beatles said, but when you talk about destruction, you're going to have to count me out, right? I can't be part of this. We have to, and we need to do better, and we can do better. But downshifting a little bit away from all of the rhetoric and thinking more calmly may be a way to, I don't know, ameliorate this, keep a sense of perspective by looking at social media as just another facet of people venting, right? There may be some truth in there, but there's going to be a lot of mistruth or misinformation as well. And if we don't train our kids to understand this, then we're going to perpetuate this problem. It's going to go on and on and on, and it's going to get uglier. And these riots are going to grow potentially, to get worse, and we're just going to become a more uncivil, meaner society. And I don't think that's an America that I want to live in. And I'm hoping and praying that's not an America that you want to live in. All right, Newsweek fans, that's my thoughts on this situation. And I appreciate your time. And I hope that you give yourself a little bit of a break from social media and gain a little bit better perspective on humanity. Bye-bye.